The flaming wreckage of a Kalan Republic cruiser drifted through the void, its once sleek silver hull now punctured and blackened. Inside the command bridge, Captain Nico clung to his command chair as another explosion rocked the vessel. Warning klaxons blared, and emergency lights bathed the bridge in crimson. "Shields at 12%. Captain," shouted his first officer, her blue skin pale with fear. "Two more Vorak destroyers approaching from Vector 7. Nico gripped the armrests of his chair. The Kalan Republic, a peaceful civilization spanning 12 star systems, had never prepared for this. For generations, they had been traders and diplomats, not warriors. But the Vorak Empire cared nothing for peace. They had swept through the outer systems like a plague, conquering 3 Kalan worlds in less than a standard month. "Divert remaining power to engines," Nico ordered. "Prepare for emergency jump." The tactical officer, his uniform singed and face smeared with soot, looked up with hollow eyes. "Sir, the FTL drive is offline. We can't escape." Nico closed his eyes momentarily. Around him, the last functioning ship in the Kalan Defense Fleet was dying. They had fought bravely, but were simply outmatched. The Vorak war machine was ruthlessly efficient, their plasma cannons cutting through Kalan shields as if they were made of paper. "Communications," Nico said, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Is the quantum transmitter still functioning?" "Yes, Captain, barely." "Then we have one last duty to perform." Nico stood, straightening his uniform despite the futility of the gesture. "Broadcast on all frequencies. Send President Vale's distress message to every corner of the galaxy." The communications officer nodded grimly. "Transmitting now, sir." As the quantum signal pierced the darkness of space, Nico watched the approaching Vorak warships on the main view screen. Their hulls were angular and black, adorned with red markings that resembled war paint. He knew the message would likely go unanswered. Who would risk their own safety for the Kalan? But it was their only hope. "For the Republic," Nico whispered, as the bridge exploded around him. 50 light-years away, on a blue-green planet, circling an unremarkable yellow star. Commander Sarah Blake frowned at her monitor. The quantum communication facility beneath Cheyenne Mountain was Earth's most advanced listening post, designed to detect signals from the furthest reaches of known space. "This can't be right," she muttered, adjusting her headset. Lieutenant Rodriguez glanced over from his station. "Problem, Commander." "I'm picking up a distress signal. Quantum frequency." Blake's fingers flew over her keyboard. "It's using the Galactic Standard Protocol. But..." She paused. "It's not from any human colony." Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. "Aliens. Are you sure it's not just interference from Jupiter's magnetosphere again?" "Positive. This is structured data. And it's..." Blake's eyes widened as the translation matrix began decoding the message. "It's a plea for help." The lieutenant moved to her station, reading over her shoulder as the alien message appeared on screen. "To any civilization capable of receiving this message, the Kalan Republic stands on the brink of extinction. We are a peaceful people, spanning 12 star systems near the Orion Spur. We are being systematically conquered by the Vorak Empire, a militaristic regime that shows no mercy. Our defense fleet is destroyed. Our worlds burn. We plead for intervention from any species with the means to help. We have little to offer but our eternal gratitude and alliance. Please, we have children, families, billions of innocent lives at stake. This is President Vale of the Kalan Republic. Help us." Blake and Rodriguez exchanged glances. "We need to notify the Defense Council," Blake said quietly. "Now." The Earth Defense Council chamber hummed with tension. The horseshoe-shaped table seated the 12 voting members, representatives from Earth's most powerful nations and orbital colonies. Admiral William Hayes, commander of Earth's interstellar fleet, stood at attention in the center of the room, his weathered face impassive, despite the heated debate swirling around him. "This is madness." Secretary Morgan slammed his palm on the table. We have barely mastered faster-than-light travel. We've colonized a handful of systems. And now, you propose we send our limited forces to fight an alien empire we know nothing about. General Parker, her uniform adorned with combat ribbons from the Mars Rebellion, leaned forward. It's not just about this Kalan Republic. If the Vorak are as aggressive as the message suggests, how long before they discover Earth better to confront them now, on our terms, than wait for them to come knocking at our door? Intelligence Director Collins adjusted her glasses. Our surveillance drones have confirmed the signal's origin. The Kalan Republic does exist, and they are indeed under attack. Our long-range scans show significant military activity in their sector. Even if we wanted to help, Morgan countered, what could we possibly do? We'd be throwing away human lives on an alien war we have no stake in. Admiral Hayes cleared his throat. The room fell silent. With respect, Mr. Secretary, I believe we do have a stake in this conflict, Hayes said. His voice was quiet, but carried the weight of command. Humanity has always defined itself by how we respond to those in need. 200 years ago, we nearly destroyed ourselves in world wars. We learned the hard way that ignoring aggression only emboldens aggressors. Hayes walked to the holographic display at the center of the chamber. With a gesture, he brought up a stellar map showing Earth's position relative to the Kalan Republic. The Kalan are approximately 50 light-years from Earth. If they fall, the Vorak Empire will be that much closer to us. But more importantly, Hayes looked each council member in the eye. This is our opportunity to announce humanity's presence on the galactic stage, not as conquerors, but as defenders of the innocent. President Reyes, who had been listening silently, finally spoke. Admiral, if the Council approves this mission, what forces would you recommend committing? Hayes didn't hesitate. The First Fleet, Madam President, 12 warships, including the Dreadnought Constitution. A murmur ran through the chamber. The First Fleet represented nearly half of Earth's interstellar military capability. And you believe 12 ships can make a difference against this empire? Reyes asked. Hayes's lips curved in a slight smile. The Vorak may have superior numbers, but they've never encountered humans before. We have a few surprises they won't be expecting. The President nodded slowly. Very well. The Council will vote. She turned to face the representatives. The question before us is simple. Do we answer the Kalan distress call? One by one, the Council members cast their votes. When the final tally appeared on the display, Hayes felt a surge of pride. Yes, 705. President Reyes stood. Admiral Hayes, you have your authorization. The First Fleet is to depart immediately for the Kalan Republic. Your mission is to assess the situation and render appropriate assistance to repel the Vorak invasion. Hayes saluted sharply. Yes, Madam President. As the council members filed out, General Parker approached Hayes. You're walking into a hornet's nest. William, she said quietly. Probably, Hayes admitted. But it's the right thing to do. Just make sure you bring our people home. Parker clasped his shoulder. And give those Vorak bastards hell. Hayes nodded grimly. That's the plan. The bridge of the EFS Constitution hummed with activity as Earth's largest warship prepared to lead the First Fleet into battle. Through the viewports, Hayes could see the other 11 ships of his command destroyers, cruisers, and the specialized carrier Intrepid with its complement of strike craft. All ships report ready, Admiral, announced his executive officer, Commander Maria Santos. FTL drives charged and synchronized. Hayes settled into his command chair. The Constitution was a marvel of human engineering 1 kilometer long and bristling with weapon systems that most of the galaxy had never seen before. Earth had developed along a different technological path than many alien civilizations, focusing on kinetic weapons rather than energy-based systems. While the Vorak relied on plasma beams and shield technology, Earth's warships carried railguns and mass accelerators that could launch projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. "Very well, Commander. Signal the fleet. We jump in 60 seconds. As the countdown commenced, Hayes felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. 50,000 men and women served under his command. He was taking them into unknown danger, against an enemy whose full capabilities remained a mystery. "Admiral," Santos said quietly, "the crew is asking, what should we expect when we arrive?" Hayes considered the question. "Based on the intelligence we have, we'll be jumping into a hot zone. The Vorak have approximately 200 ships in the Kalen home system. They've never encountered humans before, so we'll have surprise on our side, but only briefly." Santos nodded. "And our strategy? Hit hard, hit fast. We'll focus fire on their command ships while deploying our kinetic platforms. If we can create enough chaos, the Kalen may be able to rally whatever forces they have left." 10 seconds to jump," announced the navigation officer. Hayes straightened in his chair. "All hands, battle stations. Weapon systems hot, shields at maximum." The stars outside the viewport elongated, and then the fleet was swallowed by the swirling vortex of faster-than-light travel. When they emerged, chaos greeted them. The Kalen home system was a battlefield. A massive gas giant glowed blue in the distance, its many moons surrounded by the wreckage of destroyed ships. Closer to the fleet's position, a garden world, presumably the Kalen homeworld, was partially obscured by clouds and the flashes of orbital bombardment. Surrounding the planet was the Vorak invasion fleet, massive black vessels arranged in attack formations. Several were in low orbit, deploying landing craft to the surface. "Sensors detect 212 Vorak vessels," reported the tactical officer. "They're registering our arrival. Sir, they're repositioning to engage us." Hayes nodded. "They're not used to being challenged. Let's give them something to think about." He keyed the fleet-wide comm. "All ships, execute Thunderbolt protocol. Cruisers Excalibur and Magellan, target their command vessel. Destroyers, form defensive perimeter. Intrepid, launch all strike craft. Constitution will target their heavy support ships." As the human fleet sprang into action, Hayes watched the Vorak response. A section of their fleet, approximately 50 ships, broke off to intercept the human vessels. The rest maintained their positions around the planet, apparently unwilling to abandon their conquest. "They're underestimating us," Santos observed. "Good." Hayes allowed himself a tight smile. "Weapons control. Prepare main battery. Target the lead Vorak battleship." The Constitution's primary weapon system was a spinal-mounted mass accelerator running almost the entire length of the ship. It could launch a 20-ton tungsten projectile at 15% of light speed, a level of kinetic energy that few shield systems in the galaxy could withstand. "Target locked, Admiral." "Fire." The Constitution shuddered as the massive weapon discharged. On the tactical display, Hayes watched the projectile cross the void in seconds. It struck the Vorak battleship dead center. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the alien vessel's shields flared brilliantly before collapsing. The projectile continued through the ship, emerging from the other side trailing debris and atmosphere. The Vorak battleship split apart, secondary explosions rippling along its length. Direct hit. The tactical officer couldn't keep the excitement from his voice. Target destroyed. Around the Constitution, the rest of the human fleet engaged. The destroyers launched salvos of missiles, while the cruisers fired their own, smaller mass accelerators. The Intrepid released swarms of fighter craft that darted between the larger Vorak vessels, targeting engines and weapon systems. The Vorak, clearly shocked by the effectiveness of human weaponry, attempted to regroup. Their plasma beams lashed out, scoring hits on several human ships. The destroyer Challenger reported shield failures, and the cruiser Excalibur took heavy damage to its port side. "They're adapting to our attack pattern," Santos warned. "Shifting to intercept our fighters." Hayes nodded. Execute Phase 2. Deploy the kinetic platforms. From the holds of 3 human ships, hundreds of small objects were released into space. To casual observation, they appeared to be simple metal spheres, each about the size of a basketball. But as they spread out between the opposing fleets, they revealed their true purpose. Kinetic platforms activated, reported the tactical officer. Gravitational web established. The seemingly innocuous spheres were actually the nodes of an intricate weapon system. Using localized gravity fields, they could accelerate small particles, essentially dust, to incredible velocities. Individually, each particle caused minimal damage, but collectively, thousands of particles formed a deadly field that could shred unprotected hull plating. The Vorak ships that ventured into the gravitational web began to report damage. Their shields, designed to stop concentrated energy weapons, struggled to block the diffuse cloud of hypervelocity particles. Small breaches appeared in their hulls, venting atmosphere and crew into space. "Admiral," Santos said urgently, "we're receiving a transmission. It's from the surface of the Kalan homeworld." Hayes turned from the tactical display. "Put it through." The main view screen flickered, then resolved to show the face of a humanoid alien. Its skin was pale blue, with delicate ridges where a human would have eyebrows. Despite the alien physiology, Hayes could clearly read the expression, shock mingled with desperate hope. "This is President Vale of the Kalan Republic," the alien said, its voice translated by the ship's computer. "To the unknown fleet engaging the Vorak, we thank you for your intervention. May I ask who has come to our aid?" Hayes stepped forward. "This is Admiral William Hayes of the Earth Defense Fleet. We received your distress call and have come to assist the Kalan people against Vorak aggression." Vale's large eyes blinked rapidly. "Earth, we had no idea your civilization had achieved interstellar travel. The Vorak have occupied our capital city, but we maintain control of several regions. If you can help us push back their orbital forces, our ground resistance may have a chance." "That's exactly what we intend to do, Mr. President," Hayes assured him. "We've already destroyed several of their capital ships. With your permission, we'd like to deploy ground forces to assist your resistance." "Permission granted, Admiral, and with our deepest gratitude." Vale's image flickered as another explosion sounded in the background. "I must go, our position may be compromised. But know this, the Kalan Republic will remember Earth's courage this day." As the transmission ended, Hayes turned back to the battle. The human fleet had carved a significant hole in the Vorak formation, destroying or disabling nearly 30 enemy vessels. But the remaining Vorak ships were regrouping, adapting their tactics to counter the human attack. "They're forming a phalanx," Santos observed, "concentrating their firepower." Hayes nodded. "They're learning. Signal the fleet to pull back from the kinetic field. Prepare for concentrated assault on their new formation." Before the order could be carried out, a massive energy surge emanated from the largest Vorak vessel, a dreadnought nearly twice the size of the Constitution. "Energy spike!" shouted the tactical officer. "They're charging some kind of—" The warning came too late. A beam of coherent energy, blindingly bright, lanced out from the Vorak dreadnought. It struck the human destroyer Phoenix, cutting through its shields and armor as if they weren't there. The Phoenix broke apart, its reactor going critical and detonating in a ball of nuclear fire. "Phoenix is gone," Santos reported grimly. "No survivors detected." Hayes felt a cold rage build within him. 300 crew members gone in an instant. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," he ordered. "That weapon has a significant recharge time. We have approximately 3 minutes before they can fire again. Constitution will target the dreadnought. All other vessels, continue engaging their support ships." The human fleet moved with practiced precision, avoiding the firing arc of the Vorak superweapon while maintaining offensive pressure. The Constitution's mass accelerator fired again, striking the Vorak dreadnought. This time, however, the projectile detonated against enhanced shields. "Their flagship has reinforced defenses," reported the tactical officer. "Standard kinetic rounds won't penetrate." Hayes considered his options. "Prepare a Nova package." Santos looked up sharply. "Sir, we only have 3 aboard. And I can't think of a better use for one of them." Hayes's expression was grim. "Load it into the main accelerator." A Nova package was one of Earth's most closely guarded weapons, a projectile containing an artificial singularity generator. Upon impact, it created a momentary black hole that collapsed almost instantly, releasing enormous energy in the process. "Nova package loaded, Admiral. Target their dreadnought. Fire when ready." The Constitution shuddered again as the weapon launched. The tactical display tracked its progress across the battlefield. When it struck the Vorak flagship, the effect was spectacular. The singularity punctured the ship's shields and formed directly inside the vessel. For a split second, the dreadnought imploded as matter was drawn toward the microscopic black hole. Then, as the singularity collapsed, a blinding explosion erupted, tearing the massive ship apart from the inside. "Target destroyed," announced the tactical officer, unable to keep the awe from his voice. The destruction of their flagship seemed to shock the Vorak fleet. Their coordinated attack faltered, individual ships breaking formation as conflicting orders spread through their command structure. Hayes seized the opportunity. "All ships, press the advantage. Cruisers, target their remaining capital ships. Destroyers, take out their troop transports. Intrepid, launch second fighter wave to harass their retreat vectors." The battle raged for another hour, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Deprived of central command and faced with weapons they had no defense against, the Vorak fleet began to withdraw. Some ships jumped to FTL immediately. Others formed defensive clusters as they retreated from the planet. When the last Vorak ship had fled the system, Hayes allowed himself to relax slightly. The First Fleet had suffered losses: 2 destroyers destroyed, 1 cruiser severely damaged, and the Constitution itself bearing scars from multiple plasma impacts, but they had achieved victory against overwhelming numerical odds. "Status report," Hayes requested. Santos consulted her display. 3 ships lost, 4 with significant damage. Casualty reports still coming in, but preliminary estimate is 700 dead, 300 wounded. Vorak losses are substantially higher. We confirm 87 ships destroyed, at least 50 heavily damaged. Hayes nodded grimly. Each human life lost weighed on him, but he knew the cost would have been much higher if the Vorak had been allowed to complete their conquest unchallenged. "Open a channel to President Vale," he ordered. When the Kalan leader appeared on screen, Hayes could see that he was no longer in the bunker. Instead, he stood in what appeared to be a government building, surrounded by other Kalan officials. "Admiral Hayes," Vale said, his voice rich with emotion. "The Kalan people owe you and Earth a debt we can never repay. The Vorak ground forces are surrendering across the planet as news of their fleet's defeat spreads." "I'm pleased we could help, Mr. President," Hayes replied. "But I should warn you, this is likely only a temporary respite. The Vorak will return, and in greater numbers." Vale nodded solemnly. "We are aware, which is why I have convened our High Council. We wish to formally request an alliance with Earth. Our civilizations are stronger together than apart." Hayes smiled. "I believe my government will be very receptive to that proposal, Mr. President. In the meantime, we'll maintain a defensive position in your system and assist with recovery efforts." As the communication ended, Hayes turned to find Santos watching him. "You know what this means, don't you?" she asked quietly. Hayes nodded. "We've just made an enemy of the most powerful empire in this sector of the galaxy, and when they recover from their shock, they'll be coming for us next." "Was it worth it?" Hayes looked at the view screen, where the Kalan homeworld now rotated peacefully. the flashes of orbital bombardment, replaced by the lights of cities emerging from darkness. "Ask me again in a year," he said. "But for now, yes, Commander. I believe it was war." On the Vorak throne world of Dominax Prime, Emperor Cain smashed a crystalline goblet against the obsidian floor of his war chamber. Around the circular table, his generals and admirals stood in uncomfortable silence, none willing to meet their ruler's gaze. 12 ships, Cain's voice was dangerously quiet. 12 unknown vessels destroyed nearly half a battle fleet. Supreme General Rex, his scaled skin bearing the ceremonial scars of 100 victories, stepped forward. "Emperor, these humans possess weapons technology unlike anything we have encountered. Their projectile-based systems bypassed our standard shield configurations. And not one of you thought to adapt to overwhelm them with our superior numbers." Cain stalked around the table, his tall, gaunt frame casting a long shadow in the dim light. The red markings on his gray skin denoting his royal lineage seemed to pulse with his anger. "We attempted to regroup, Your Eminence," offered Admiral Zorax. "But their attack was unorthodox. They deployed some kind of particle field that—" Silence. Cain slammed his fist on the table, causing holograms of the battle to flicker. "I don't want excuses. I want results. The Kalan Republic was nearly ours, 12 systems rich with resources, strategically positioned for our expansion toward the galactic core. And now," he gestured to a display showing Kalan ships regrouping, protected by the Earth vessels. "Now they have hope again, all because of these humans." The Emperor turned to his intelligence director. "What do we know of Earth?" The director activated a holographic display. "Earth is the third planet in a system approximately 50 light-years from Kalan space. They are relatively new to interstellar travel, perhaps 50 standard years of FTL capability. They have established colonies on 3 nearby systems. Their technology is advanced but developed along different lines than most galactic powers. They favor kinetic weapons over energy-based systems. And their defenses, from what we can gather, the fleet they sent to Kalan represents roughly half their total interstellar military strength. Their home system is heavily fortified, particularly around Earth itself and their Mars colony." Cain studied the holographic representation of the Sol system. "So they committed half their fleet to save aliens they had never met before. Interesting." He turned to face his war council. "These humans are either extraordinarily noble or extraordinarily foolish. Either way, they have made themselves our enemy." Supreme General Rex stepped forward again. "What are your orders, Emperor?" Cain's thin lips curved in a cruel smile. "Recall all battle fleets. Every ship, every soldier. We will gather the largest armada in Vorak history." He pointed to the holographic image of Earth. "And then, we will make these humans regret the day they interfered in affairs beyond their understanding." Rex bowed deeply. "It shall be done, Your Eminence." As his generals filed out to carry out his commands, Cain remained in the war chamber, studying the image of the blue-green planet that had dared to challenge his empire. "Enjoy your victory while you can, Admiral Hayes," he murmured. "It will be your last." News of the victory at Kalan spread rapidly through human space. On Earth, crowds gathered in major cities to watch footage of the battle, cheering as human warships outmaneuvered the alien aggressors. In the orbital habitats around Jupiter and Saturn, colonists toasted the bravery of the First Fleet. On Mars, recruitment centers for the Earth Defense Force reported lines stretching for blocks. But in the secure meeting rooms of the Defense Council, the mood was far less celebratory. "The Vorak Empire controls over 300 star systems," Intelligence Director Collins explained, her expression grave as she addressed the assembled counselors. "They have thousands of warships at their disposal. The battle at Kalan was a significant defeat for them, but it barely scratched the surface of their military capability." Admiral Hayes, recently returned from Kalan space, nodded in agreement. According to Kalan intelligence, the Vorak are recalling their distributed forces. They're preparing for a major offensive. Secretary Morgan, who had opposed the Kalan intervention, leaned forward. And you believe Earth is their target? I'm certain of it, Hayes replied. We humiliated them. In their culture, such an affront demands a response. President Reyes studied the strategic display showing Vorak fleet movements. How long do we have? 3 months, possibly 4, Hayes said. FTL travel across those distances takes time, even for the Vorak. They'll need to gather their forces, plan their assault. And when they come, General Parker asked, what are our chances? A heavy silence fell over the room. It was Collins who finally answered. If they commit their full strength, and if we face them conventionally. She shook her head. Minimal. We simply don't have the numbers. Then we don't face them conventionally, Hayes said firmly. The battle at Kalan proved that our technology can offset their numerical advantage. We need to leverage that, prepare defenses that maximize our strengths. President Reyes nodded. What do you propose, Admiral? Hayes stepped to the holographic display, bringing up an image of the Sol system. We transform our entire system into a fortress. The asteroid belt becomes a minefield of kinetic platforms. We position mass accelerator batteries on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Mars becomes our forward defense line, with drone swarms ready to harass their formation. And Earth itself, asked Morgan. The last line of defense, Hayes replied. We expand our orbital platforms, improve our planetary shields. Every ship we have, military or civilian, gets retrofitted with whatever weapons it can carry. Parker frowned. Even with all that, we're talking about facing an armada of potentially thousands of ships. Which is why we won't face them alone. Hayes switched the display to show the Kalan Republic. President Vale has pledged the full support of the Kalan fleet, what's left of it. Approximately 50 ships. But more importantly, the Kalan have allies who stayed neutral during the Vorak invasion. With the Vorak in retreat, those allies might be willing to join our cause. You're proposing a galactic alliance, Reyes said slowly, built around Earth and the Kalan Republic. Hayes nodded. The Vorak have been bullying smaller civilizations for centuries. Many would join us if they believed victory was possible. And is it? Morgan asked bluntly. Is victory possible? Hayes met his gaze steadily. Nothing is certain in war, Mr. Secretary. But I believe we have a fighting chance. And sometimes, that's all humanity has ever needed. After a moment, President Reyes stood. Very well, Admiral. You have full authority to prepare Earth's defenses and to pursue these potential alliances. Let's make sure that when the Vorak come, they find more than they bargained for. The 3 months that followed were the most intensive period of military preparation in Earth's history. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, once a mining zone and scientific outpost, was transformed into a vast defensive network. Thousands of kinetic platforms were positioned among the floating rocks, their gravitational generators dormant but ready to activate at a moment's notice. On Mars, the Colonial Defense Force was reinforced with elite units from Earth. Massive railgun emplacements were constructed on the Martian surface, capable of launching projectiles toward any Vorak ships that entered the inner system. Swarms of autonomous drones, each barely larger than a human hand but equipped with small, powerful engines and explosive payloads, were stockpiled in hidden bases across the Red Planet. In the outer system, the moons of Jupiter and Saturn became fortress worlds. Their surfaces, once home only to scientific outposts and mining operations, now bristled with weapon systems. The shipyards orbiting Titan worked around the clock, retrofitting civilian vessels with military-grade shields and weapon systems. Earth itself underwent a transformation. The orbital defense grid, designed originally to track and destroy asteroids, was upgraded with new weapon platforms. The planetary shield system, previously capable of covering only major cities, was expanded to envelop the entire globe. Civilian populations were trained in emergency procedures, and underground shelters were prepared in every major urban center. Through it all, Admiral Hayes divided his time between overseeing the defensive preparations and diplomatic missions to potential allies. The Kalan Republic, true to their word, committed their remaining fleet to Earth's defense. President Vale himself traveled to Earth to sign a formal alliance treaty, the first such agreement between humanity and an alien civilization. Other species were more cautious. The Zenturi, a race of silicon-based lifeforms with a reputation for neutrality, initially declined to join the alliance. But when their diplomatic delegation witnessed Earth's determination and innovative defensive strategies, they reconsidered. Their crystalline ships, few in number but formidable in their energy manipulation capabilities, would join the combined fleet. The Omega Alliance, a coalition of 6 smaller species who had suffered Vorak raids along their borders, also pledged support. Their vessels were lightly armed, but extremely fast, perfect for harassment tactics and rapid strikes. By the time Earth's long-range sensors detected the approaching Vorak armada, the Sol system had been transformed into a layered defensive fortification, unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. And Hayes, standing on the bridge of the refitted Constitution, felt a grim satisfaction as he reviewed the final deployment of their forces. "The Vorak fleet has entered the detection grid," reported Commander Santos. "Initial count shows 1,726 vessels." Hayes absorbed the number without visible reaction, though inwardly he felt a chill. Even with all their preparations, they were outnumbered nearly 10-1. Composition: 8 dreadnoughts, including a new class we haven't seen before designated as Eternal Conquest. Intelligence suggests it's Emperor Kane's personal flagship. The remainder consists of battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and troop transports. Hayes nodded. "They're coming for occupation, not just punishment." He turned to his communications officer. "Signal all defense groups. Operation Thunderhead is now in effect." Throughout the Sol system, the carefully laid plans began to activate. In the asteroid belt, kinetic platforms powered up, creating a lethal web of hypervelocity particles. On Mars, railgun batteries rotated toward predetermined firing solutions. In the shadow of Jupiter's moons, ambush groups of smaller vessels prepared to strike at the Vorak flanks. "The Vorak fleet has reached the outer system boundary," Santos reported. "They're forming into attack formations. They're launching probes toward the asteroid belt." Hayes watched the tactical display as tiny Vorak scout ships ventured into the defensive perimeter. When they encountered the kinetic field, several were shredded instantly. Others managed to retreat, no doubt reporting the danger to their commanders. "They're testing our defenses," Hayes observed, "mapping safe corridors through the belt." "Sir, we're receiving a transmission. It's from the Vorak flagship." Hayes raised an eyebrow. "Put it through." The main view screen flickered, then resolved to show the gaunt, gray-skinned face of Emperor Kane. His red markings stood out starkly against his ashen complexion, and his eyes, entirely black with no visible iris, glittered with malice. "Admiral Hayes," Kane said, his voice a sibilant hiss, "I have looked forward to making your acquaintance." Hayes maintained a neutral expression. "Emperor Kane, you're a long way from Vorak space." "Indeed. Such an inconvenience, but necessary to address the matter of your interference in the Kalan conquest." Kane's thin lips curved in what might have been a smile. "I must admit, your species has impressed me. Few have dared to challenge the Vorak Empire so boldly." "We didn't seek this conflict," Hayes replied evenly. "We responded to a plea for help from a peaceful civilization under attack." Kane's expression hardened. "Noble sentiments, but ultimately misguided. The galaxy operates according to simple principles. Admiral, the strong rule, the weak serve." The Kalen are weak. And as for humanity, he leaned closer to the screen. We shall soon determine your place in the order of things. If you're hoping for surrender, you're wasting your time, Hayes said. Earth will not bow to threats. Oh, I expect no surrender, not initially. Kane's smile returned, colder than before. But after we have broken your defenses, burned your colonies, and reduced your homeworld to ash, then, perhaps, the survivors will understand the cost of defiance. Hayes met the Emperor's gaze steadily. You should know something about humans, Your Eminence. Throughout our history, we've faced enemies who believed their victory was inevitable. Those enemies are now footnotes in our history books. I suggest you consider that before you commit to this course of action. For a moment, Kane's composure slipped, anger flashing across his alien features. Then he regained control. Bold words. Let us see if your species backs them with equally bold deeds. The Emperor made a dismissive gesture. We attack within the hour. Prepare yourself, Admiral. This will be a day long remembered in the annals of both our civilizations. The transmission ended abruptly. Charming fellow, Santos commented dryly. Hayes turned to his tactical officer. Status of Allied forces. Kalen fleet is in position near Earth. Zenturi vessels are deployed at the Mars perimeter. Omega Alliance ships are stationed for hit-and-run attacks throughout the system. Hayes nodded. Very well. All ships. Battle stations. This is not a drill. He settled into his command chair. And now we wait. The Vorak attack, when it came, was both predictable and surprising. Their main fleet split into 3 battle groups. The largest, led by Kane's dreadnought, headed directly for Earth. The second group moved toward Mars, presumably to neutralize the defensive batteries there. The third and smallest group began systematic attacks on the outer system bases, targeting the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. They're following conventional doctrine, Hayes observed. Secure the outer defenses, then press toward the primary objective. They're adapting to the kinetic fields, Santos reported, using sacrificial ships to clear corridors. Hayes watched as Vorak destroyers deliberately entered the deadly fields, their hulls being shredded, but creating temporary safe passages for larger vessels to follow. It was a brutal, but effective tactic, demonstrating the Vorak willingness to expend ships and crews to achieve their objectives. Signal Mars Command, Hayes ordered. Execute Ares Protocol. On the red planet's surface, the massive railguns began to fire. Each cannon launched projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed, targeting the approaching Vorak vessels. The distances involved meant that the Vorak had only seconds to detect and attempt to evade the incoming rounds. Several battleships were struck, their shields flaring and failing under the kinetic impacts. Simultaneously, from hidden bases across the Martian surface, swarms of autonomous drones were launched. Each swarm contained thousands of tiny vehicles, collectively forming patterns that confused Vorak targeting systems. When they reached the Vorak fleet, the drones attached themselves to hull plating and detonated, causing cumulative damage across dozens of ships. Mars Defensive Group is engaging, reported the tactical officer. Zenturi crystalline ships are focusing ion beams on Vorak shield generators. On the tactical display, Hayes could see the battle unfolding across the solar system. In the outer system, the Vorak were making steady progress against the defensive outposts, but at a higher cost than they had likely anticipated. Near Mars, their advance had been slowed by the combined defensive fire and drone swarms. But they continued to press forward, their superior numbers gradually overwhelming the defenders. And now, the main Vorak battle group, still nearly 1,000 ships strong, was approaching Earth. All Earth orbital platforms, prepare to engage, Hayes ordered. Kalen Fleet, move to intercept vector. Constitution and First Fleet will target their command ships. As the space around Earth became a chaotic battlefield, Hayes focused on Kane's flagship. The Eternal Conquest was a massive vessel, dwarfing even the largest human dreadnoughts. Its hull was angular and black, adorned with red markings similar to those on the Emperor's skin. Energy readings suggested weapon systems far more powerful than anything the Vorak had deployed at Kalin. "We'll need to coordinate fire to penetrate that ship's defenses," Hayes told Santos. "Signal the Kalin cruisers to target its port shield generators. Our mass accelerators will focus on the starboard side." The battle intensified as the Vorak closed on Earth. Plasma beams lanced through space, striking human and allied vessels. Kinetic rounds and missile salvos raced in the opposite direction, causing explosions to blossom across the Vorak formation. The orbital defense platforms added their firepower, creating a web of destructive energy around the planet. For a time, it seemed the defenders might hold. The Vorak advance slowed as ship after ship fell to the combined fire of Earth's allies. But their numbers were simply too great. Gradually, inexorably, they pushed closer to the planet. "We've lost contact with the Jupiter Defense Group," reported the communications officer. "Mars reports they can hold for another hour at most." Hayes studied the tactical situation grimly. They were inflicting tremendous damage on the Vorak fleet, but not enough to force a retreat. At the current rate of attrition, Earth's defenses would be overwhelmed before the Vorak ran out of ships. "Sir," Santos said urgently, "sensors detect multiple FTL signatures at the edge of the system." Hayes felt his heart sink. Had the Vorak called for reinforcements? "Can you identify them?" Santos worked her console, then looked up with an expression of disbelief. "Sir, they're Kalin signatures. 50 vessels. Military configuration." "The Kalin home fleet is already here," Hayes said, confused. "These are different ships, older models, but heavily armed. They're transmitting a message." The view screen activated to show a Kalin officer, his blue skin marked with the scars of battle. "This is Admiral Theron of the Kalin Republic 5th Fleet. We received President Vale's message about Earth's brave stand against the Vorak. We have come to fight alongside our new allies." Hayes couldn't hide his surprise. "Admiral Theron, your arrival is most welcome, but I was informed the Kalin had committed all available ships to this battle already." Theron's expression was grim, but proud. "The 5th Fleet was considered lost 3 months ago. Admiral Hayes, we were cut off behind Vorak lines when they invaded our outer colonies. Rather than surrender, we went into hiding, conducting guerrilla attacks on their supply lines. When we learned of Earth's alliance with our people," he straightened, "well, we decided it was time to rejoin the fight properly. And we're grateful for it," Hayes said sincerely. "We could use your help targeting the Vorak flagship." "Consider it done, Admiral." As the Kalin reinforcements joined the battle, another communication came through. This one showed a crystalline being a Centauri ambassador. "Admiral Hayes, our long-range sensors have detected additional forces approaching. The Crandalin Federation and the Enextari Collective have answered your call to arms. Their fleets will arrive within the hour." Hayes exchanged a glance with Santos. Neither had heard of these civilizations before. "I don't understand," Hayes said. "We never contacted these species." The Centauri's crystalline features shifted in what might have been their equivalent of a smile. "No, but the Kalin did. And the Omega Alliance. Word has spread throughout this sector of how Earth, a civilization new to the galactic community, risked everything to defend the Kalin against Vorak aggression. It seems you have inspired others to take a stand as well." As the Centauri's words sank in, Hayes felt a renewed sense of purpose. They might still be outnumbered, but the balance was shifting. More importantly, what had begun as Earth's desperate defense was transforming into something greater, a galactic coalition against tyranny. "All Allied forces," Hayes broadcast. "This is Admiral Hayes. Concentrate fire on the Vorak flagship. If we can take down Emperor Kane, we may break their will to fight." The combined fleet responded with a coordinated assault, unlike anything the Sol system had ever witnessed. Human kinetic weapons, Kaelin plasma cannons, Zenturi ion beams, and Omega Alliance missile swarms all converged on the massive Vorak dreadnought. At first, the Eternal Conquest weathered the assault, its advanced shields deflecting or absorbing the incoming fire. But no defense could withstand such concentrated attack indefinitely. Gradually, sections of the shield began to fail, allowing weapons to strike the hull directly. On the bridge of the Constitution, Hayes watched the tactical display with intense focus. Status of our Nova packages. "One remaining, Admiral," reported the weapons officer. Hayes nodded. "Prepare it for launch. Target the Vorak flagship's command center. Hold until I give the order." The dreadnought's defenses continued to crumble under the relentless assault. Explosions rippled across its hull as more weapons found their mark. Its return fire weakened as weapon systems were destroyed. "Admiral," Santos said urgently, "we're detecting power fluctuations in their main reactor. They may be preparing to—" Her warning was cut short as the Vorak flagship suddenly emitted a blinding pulse of energy. The electromagnetic surge washed over the nearby ships, temporarily disabling systems. Status," Hayes demanded as the Constitution's lights flickered. "Minimal damage," reported the engineering officer. "Shields holding at 30%. Weapon systems rebooting." "Sir, the Vorak flagship is moving," Santos said. "They're attempting to break orbit. I think they're preparing to jump to FTL." Hayes's eyes narrowed. "They're trying to retreat. All functional ships, target their engines. Do not let them escape." Across the battlefield, Allied vessels adjusted their aim, focusing fire on the dreadnought's massive engine section. Explosions blossomed as multiple strikes hit home. But the Vorak vessel continued to accelerate away from Earth. "They're almost at FTL range," Santos warned. Hayes made his decision. "Launch the Nova package. Target their engine core." The Constitution shuddered as the weapon fired. The tactical display tracked its progress as it crossed the void toward the fleeing dreadnought. For a moment, it seemed the Vorak might escape. Then the Nova package struck its target. The artificial singularity formed directly inside the ship's engine section, imploding a significant portion of the massive vessel before collapsing in a blinding explosion. The dreadnought broke apart, secondary detonations rippling through its structure as power systems overloaded. "Direct hit," announced the tactical officer. "Vorak flagship destroyed." A cheer went up from the Constitution's crew, quickly echoed across the communication channels as other ships received the news. On the tactical display, Hayes could see the immediate effect on the Vorak forces. With their emperor presumably dead and their flagship destroyed, their coordinated attack faltered. Individual ship commanders began making independent decisions, some continuing to fight, while others broke off and retreated. "Signal all Allied forces," Hayes ordered. "Press the advantage. Target their remaining command vessels." The battle continued for several more hours, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Without central leadership, the once fearsome Vorak armada degenerated into a collection of individual ships, each fighting or fleeing according to their commander's judgment. By the time the reinforcements from the Krandalin Federation and Nextari Collective arrived, the Vorak were in full retreat, jumping to FTL in small groups as they cleared Earth's gravity well. When the last Vorak vessel had fled the system, Hayes allowed himself to relax for the first time in what felt like days. The Constitution had taken heavy damage, as had most of the Earth fleet. The orbital defense platforms were largely destroyed. Mars had suffered significant bombardment, though its major colonies remained intact. The outer system bases had been nearly wiped out. But Earth itself was untouched. The planetary shields had held, and more importantly, humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious. "Casualty reports coming in, Admiral," Santos said quietly. "Estimates suggest 30% losses across our fleet. Kaelin and other Allied forces report similar figures." Hayes nodded grimly. The cost had been high, thousands of lives lost, ships destroyed, infrastructure damaged. but compared to what might have been the conquest or destruction of Earth, it was a price worth paying. "Open a channel to all Allied forces," he requested. When the communication system indicated readiness, Hayes addressed the coalition that had formed to defend Earth. "This is Admiral William Hayes of Earth. To all ships and personnel who fought alongside us today, you have my deepest gratitude, and that of every human being in this system. What we accomplished here was more than just a military victory. We proved that different species, from different worlds, can stand together against tyranny and aggression." He paused, considering his next words carefully. "The Vorak Empire has been dealt a significant blow, but they are not defeated. They will regroup, rebuild, and potentially seek revenge. But they will find a different galaxy waiting for them when they do." Today marks the beginning of something new, a coalition of free worlds, united in mutual defense and respect. The response was immediate, a flood of messages from ships throughout the system, each expressing solidarity with Hayes' vision. From the Kalan, who had been the first to experience Earth's willingness to defend others. From the Zenturi, whose traditional neutrality had given way to active participation. From the newly arrived Krandalin and Nextari, eager to join what they saw as a historic alliance. As the messages continued to arrive, President Reyes contacted Hayes privately. "Congratulations, Admiral," she said, her expression both relieved and proud. "Earth owes you a debt that can never be repaid." "The victory belongs to everyone who fought today, Madam President," Hayes replied, "human and non-human alike." Reyes nodded. "Indeed. And speaking of our allies, we've received formal requests from 7 different species to send diplomatic delegations to Earth. It seems your coalition has struck a chord throughout the sector." "It's an opportunity we shouldn't waste," Hayes said. "The Vorak have dominated this region for centuries because no one was willing or able to stand against them. Now that we've proven they can be defeated, others will be eager to join our cause." "I agree." Reyes's expression turned serious. "I'm authorizing the construction of a space station in Earth, orbit a neutral ground where representatives from all allied species can meet. We're calling it Unity Station. I want you to oversee its development. Admiral, you've proven yourself not just in battle, but in bringing diverse forces together for a common purpose." Hayes was momentarily taken aback. "Madam President, I'm a military officer, not a diplomat." "Perhaps. But you're the face of Earth to our new allies. They trust you. Besides," she added with a hint of a smile, "I suspect we'll need your military expertise for some time to come. The Vorak may be retreating, but this conflict is far from over." After a moment, Hayes nodded. "I'll do my best, Madam President." "I know you will, Admiral. Reyes out." 2 months after the Battle of Earth, as it came to be known, Unity Station was completed, positioned in Earth orbit. The massive structure resembled a wheel, with spokes extending from a central hub. Each section was designed to accommodate the environmental needs of different species. Standard Earth atmosphere in one section, methane-rich air for the silicon-based Zenturi in another, higher gravity for the Nextari, and so on. In the central chamber, representatives from 27 different civilizations gathered for the signing of the Treaty of Earth, the founding document of the Galactic Defense Alliance. Admiral Hayes, now bearing the additional title of Earth's ambassador to the Alliance, stood on the dais alongside President Vale of the Kalan Republic and leaders from the other founding member species. As Hayes surveyed the assembled delegates, he reflected on how much had changed in the short time since the Kalan distress call had reached Earth. Humanity had gone from an isolated civilization, just beginning to explore beyond its home system, to a pivotal member of a galactic coalition, the Vorak Empire. Once the unchallenged power in the sector, was now facing internal rebellions as subjugated worlds seized the opportunity to claim independence. President Reyes stepped forward to address the gathering. "Distinguished representatives, Today marks a historic moment, not just for Earth, but for all our worlds. The treaty before us establishes not merely a military alliance, but a commitment to mutual respect, cooperation, and the defense of freedom throughout our shared galaxy. She gestured to the document displayed on the central hologram. The Galactic Defense Alliance is founded on a simple principle, that all sentient species have the right to determine their own destiny, free from coercion or conquest. We pledge to defend that right for ourselves and for each other. One by one, the representatives came forward to sign the treaty. Hayes watched as President Vale added his signature, the Kalan leader's expression solemn but hopeful. When it was Hayes's turn, he paused for a moment, considering the significance of the act. With a steady hand, he inscribed his name on the document that would shape humanity's future among the stars. As the ceremony concluded, Vale approached Hayes. "When I sent that distress call," the Kalan president said quietly, "I never imagined it would lead to this. My people hoped merely for rescue. Instead, we found not just allies, but a new vision for our sector of the galaxy." Hayes smiled. "Sometimes the most important journeys begin with a single cry for help." "And sometimes," Vale replied, "the most profound changes come from the willingness to answer that cry." He extended his hand in the human gesture of friendship that he had learned. "The stars shine brighter today. Admiral Hayes, for all of us." As Hayes clasped the alien's hand, he gazed out the viewport at Earth, rotating serenely below. And beyond it, the vast expanse of space no longer an empty void, but a galaxy filled with allies, friends, and possibilities. "Yes," he agreed, "they certainly do."